First of all, I commend the protesters for coming out.
Right.
Protest is needed, but how many of those protesters vote? How many of those
You better
protesters
say that,
take
David.
they behind on election day and vote for a politician? See, because the majority of those protesters are not registered to vote.
That's right.
They don't even know who their congressman is. They don't know who their local council person is.
Senator.
They don't know their senator or their county legislator. They just out there because it's the in thing to do right now. But black law enforcement been screaming this for the last 50 years.
Yes, we have.
We've been screaming this to our community to come out and help us for the last 50 years. So now, since it's the end thing, since it's on the front page of every newspaper, we have people want to take a part of it. But you have to vote. The only way we're going to change this is through legislation. Is through having proper elected officials pushing proper legislation. This statewide special prosecutor ain't nothing new. We've been talking about that since the death of Christopher Ridley. That was over 7 years ago.
That's right.
That was over 7 years ago. We've been having press. They could Google that. We've been having press conference in Westchester County about a statewide special prosecutor for over 7 years ago. Yes. But now it's politically correct to talk about it. Right? Where was Snyderman for Kenneth Chamberlain? Where was Snyderman for Ramarley Graham? Or all the other ones under his watch? He want to talk about he going to do it now and move forward. But what about all these other deaths of black men while you was sitting up in Albany watching all this craziness go on? But now because the world is watching, I got a call from Belgium to do an interview. Wow. I'm on Russian television doing interviews. The world is watching America.
Right.
Right. So Obama can't talk that stuff to these other countries about messing their people up when police officers are killing black men like as American as apple pie.
Well, you know what they're calling it? They're calling it modern day lynching. That's what they're calling it. Hitler, everything he did was legal. Everything.
That's right.
He did was legal. So in terms of what you were just saying about voting, I know we don't have much time and we're going to have to come back for the next part to this series. But, you talked about voting. Now, some would say our vote don't matter. Some would beg to differ and say, Damon, you're wrong. Our vote don't matter. Even if we came out to vote, they'll find ways to change the vote. They'll find ways to corrupt the vote. I just say in like 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 1 minute each of you to just address that before we have to wrap up. And then we'll come back for another part. This is good. Michael?
For voting, your vote does count. So you need to wake up that morning and vote because it does count. And you should hold your politicians to a standard that they should keep up with.
Okay.
Let me say this. It's so important to vote. But outside of that, it's so important to educate yourself about the law, about voting. Find out why it's so important. There are so many reasons why you need to know what the law states in your state and constitutionally. We don't do that. If you did that, you'd understand how important the vote is and how important it is to push young people to get into the political process. Do not leave it up to someone to tell you about it.
Right.
You go and find out about it.
Damon, before you answer that, could it be possibly, because I want you to answer it with the last minute and a half, could it be possibly that that's why what they call the modern day slave train penitentiary is why it's been set up? Because once you are a felon, you are considered a slave. 13th Amendment. Yes. I know.
Right.
So you see, so go ahead with the last. Because then you can't vote.
Right.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
You can. In New York State, you can vote. If once you even if you have a felony, once you're discharged from any correctional facility and you're not on probation or parole, you don't overstay any time, your voting rights is automatically reinstored. A lot of young black kids don't know this, and the Democratic Party is not teaching them that. They're not teaching them that they can vote. So it's all about education, and it's all about getting the word out to the people. But they have to take part of the voting process. If they do not vote, then that's why we have problems. Black people is the only ethnic group that don't have a say in how their community is policed.
And that's because
they don't vote.
They don't vote.
We're gonna